Hello, and welcome to the Draft Talk podcast, your one-stop shop for all your NFL draft needs. We're continuing forward with our top 5 series. We've done the big guys up front on both sides of the ball, and now it's time we have a little wander down skill position lane, as today we're hitting the running backs. Before we do, where's my manners? Let me introduce myself and the team. My name is Brian, I'm your host. And you know who it is, of course, always. It's our super scouts. It's Owen and Stu. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah, very good, Brian. As we record, it is 4 weeks until draft night. I think that, Owen's shaking his head. I think he was shaking his head when it was 8 weeks, and when we said that now, so it's fair flying around. But I'm looking forward to it. Can't come quick enough, and let's get into today's show.
Yeah, Stu had his fun last week talking about the offensive lineman. I get my fun now speaking about the skill positions. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, the guys have rated their top 5 running backs. We're going to go through them 5 up to 1 being the best. Compare notes, contrast, see what we think. And by the end of it, you'll know everything you need to know about these running backs in this year's draft class. So, Owen, I'll come to you first. Who's your number 5?
Okay, number 5. It's been very difficult to land on someone. I've been toying with it for a while because there's just a cluster of guys. So really, it's just a matter of taking a bet on traits for me. So at number 5, I've gone with Tyrone Tracy from Purdue, who's 5'11", 209 pounds. But he used to be he was a former wide receiver. He was recruited to Purdue as a wide receiver, and he's only recently transitioned to running back, with 2023 being his first year really only as a running back. And that probably tells you he's just got a really versatile skill set. He's a versatile weapon who's great in the passing game because of his wide receiver background, but also he can be a north-south runner and he can play outside the tackles. But what really sets him apart for me is his strength as a blocker. There's not many guys that we see entering the NFL now who are so good as a runner, but also as a blocker. But that's what makes him stand out. It's the receiving, it's the blocking, the catching out the backfield makes him an unbelievable weapon as a catcher at the backfield. He's a loose athlete, really smooth, fluid, corrective movement, can make defenders miss in the box. An abundance of skill moves to spin and juke for extra gain. He's just really a do-it-all guy. He can kick returns. He can return kicks as well because of that elusive footwork that he's got to make defenders miss. Weaknesses, he's new to the position, only played a year, so he's still learning some of the nuances behind the line of scrimmage, and he's got a tendency to try and kick outside of the tackles, even though he can run through the middle. You just want to see him take those opportunities more, and he needs to be able to learn more patient and discipline to be able to do that. But I think he's got it all as a skill set to buy into as one of those the 5 or 6 guys who are in a cluster who could go probably early day 3, I would say. But Tyrone Tracy, if someone really likes him, could go a little bit earlier. But there's just a cluster of guys there, and I've gone with Tyrone Tracy because I really like that all-round skill set.
Yeah, he's a bit of an older prospect, and he's going to be 25 during the season. And he was obviously at Iowa for that 3-4 years before he moved to running back at Purdue. I think he's got someone who's got really good straight line speed. He can get north to south pretty quickly. I think he just lacks a bit of experience at the position, doesn't he? I think that decision making you talked about, Owen, when he does tend to want to try and attack the outside and then burst upfield. He maybe doesn't see the plays as well through the tackles. But he's someone, if you're betting on traits, I think he is a traitsy guy. This is a difficult running back class for me to separate. I find running backs at the best of times difficult to separate, and this year incredibly difficult. I think he's got a lot to like, but for me, he was just a bit on the outside looking in, so I didn't have him in my top 5.
Yeah, I completely understand. It's literally just because of he's going to be able to get on the field because he can pass protect, and he's more than adequate as a receiver. So you've got kind of a 3-pronged attack there for him to be able to get on the field, and really that's what did it for me in the end. But yeah, the cluster of guys, it's so tight.
Good stuff. Well, we've had your number 5, Stu. Sorry, Owen, we've had your number 5, Stu. Who have you got there?
Number 5, I've got Braelon Allen from Wisconsin. He is a big bruiser of a running back, 6'1", 235 pounds. He's someone who's a young player. He joined the college ranks early. He's still only 20. And if you've seen him in some of his workout videos, he is an absolute workout monster. But for me, he's somebody who started off brightly again, and I think the change in system at Wisconsin has maybe done him a bit of a disservice. But he's a huge, enormous runner. He just bounces off tackles. He's got good build-up speed. When he's throwing that stiff arm to guys, they're bouncing off him. He's really good on the short yardage games, but I would like to see a bit more use of that size. He doesn't run as ferociously as I would maybe like him to, and he's got a bit of a fumbling issue at times as well. He doesn't hold the ball in quite tight enough for me. But there's a lot to like with Braelon Allen. I think that there's more to come. He's still on the younger side. There's a lot of things he can work on. But I think if he's going to use that frame and use it well, he could be a real bruising threat for teams if they want to use him in that way.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's going to be. He's a runner who I would say is rough around the edges. That he's a gritty runner. Bruiser is a good word. I struggled with Braelon Allen, I'll be honest with you, because I don't think he brings. Yeah, I wasn't overly impressed by his vision. I felt like he went into contact too often instead of trying to find space. I like the one cut runners who can get up. I don't think he brought an awful lot of creativity. He can make defenders miss in the box, but I'm not enamored with his ability to do it in open space once he's into the second level. And I think he's very limited in terms of speed. He's one of those players who if you want someone to grind you out 4 or 5 yards, he's going to be that type of player rather than he's not going to get you chunk plays very often. So that's probably shows in his athletic testing as well. He's one of those players who'd have a really strong 10-yard split, but not a massive, not a really good 40. I'm not sure what the numbers were, but it wouldn't surprise me. I just don't think he's a home run hitter. Not many are at the NFL level, to be fair. So, but to give him some credit, he is extremely physically gifted, and he's got a pro-ready build at such a young age, say 20 years old, when he's going to enter the NFL draft. Aggressive runner, he'll run through the tackles. He's got that one cut change of direction, but not a lot else. And he understands zone to pick up running lanes, but I just don't see a lot outside of that limited skill set. So he was down the board for me. He's number 9. So but it's just a flavor thing, really. He needs someone you can get him in there. If you paired him with Tyrone Tracy, that would be a really good room. That's just the different types of running backs that you get.
Lovely stuff there, God. That's number 5. We'll head into the 4s. That's how numbers work. Stu, who's your number 4 running back for us?
Yeah, again, I found out with my 1, 2, 3. I found anything after that quite a difficult one. And again, we're talking about flavors. I went for Will Shipley from Clemson, who is I think he's a versatile running back who's got talent as a runner, a receiver, and also as a kick returner. He's got early speed. He's got a good get off. I think he's quite a flexible runner. He's got reasonable contact balance rather than being able to move through piles, I would say. He's got really good agility, likes to hop and hurdle. He's not going to be a workhorse back for me. He definitely in that third down option, he's got to improve on his pass blocking for me. But I think he maximizes the space that's given to him. He sets up tacklers well, and is able to avoid that. He makes really sharp cuts. He's not as smooth out of the backfield as I'd like him for someone with his receiving ability, but he is somebody that there's a mix of skill sets there that I like with Shipley. Is he there all yet? No, but I don't think there's many in this class are, and I bet that he's got he'd be someone who'd be a nice addition to a running back room.
He's a complimentary back, isn't he?
Definitely, yeah. He's not going to be your A1 go-to guy every down.
If you talking about someone who's completely different to Braelon Allen after we've spoken about him.
Yeah.
Basically, Will Shipley can do everything that Braelon Allen can't. He's elusive in the open field. He's a receiving option out of the backfield, firstly, before he's an actual running back, I would say. I like him probably as a third guy in a room. I'm not sure how much he's going to see the field on early downs or on later downs, sorry, when you speak about it like that, because he's
not going to churn you out 4 yards.
Yeah, you know what's coming when he's on the field, because he's a really good athlete to start with, got track background, won 2 state lacrosse titles in high school, and has got a black belt in karate. So he's a fairly unique athlete, but he's small. But he's explosive. He's a flash in the pan, shows good vision to find running lanes. But he is, for me, almost exclusively at this point just a pass catcher out of the backfield. He's not going to be that bruiser, and he's a player who's going to work best in space, which means you can scheme him open, which is where the catches come into it. He's a fluid mover. He's got a little bit of some fumbling issues that showed up in 2022. Obviously, he's had the slight injury as well, hasn't he? Have you got what the injury was? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I didn't have it written down on my notes. Did he break his ankle or something?
Do you know, honestly, I can't remember from what it was. When I was looking at him, and yeah, it
was a knee. So he's done something. So yeah, he did something to his knee in the Gator Bowl victory over Kentucky.
Yeah.
MRI on his right knee revealed surgery will not be required. So that's not as severe as I thought. Actually, it looked really bad on the field. I think people thought it was going to be extremely serious.
But he's definitely going to be in shape for the season, for OTAs and everything. He's going to be.
Yeah, I remember watching that. I clearly need to follow it a bit more, but I remember watching the game thinking, "Oh, that's him done." But obviously not. That'll be good for the edit. Yeah, just lack of strength profile at the moment for him is, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to develop that. So a nice complementary piece, but I don't think he's going to be challenging the top of this class.
Good. Okay, Owen, who's your number 4, please?
My number 4 is Blake Corum from Michigan, who is a player that I've loved for a long time now. I thought he would, if he had come out last season, he would have been a 2nd-round pick. And if he hadn't have got injured last year, he would have been in contention for the Heisman as well. This year, he's just got a lot of tread on the tires at the moment, which has moved him down the board slightly for me, and some electric guys at the top, which I really like. He's also small. He is only 5'8", but he is 205 pounds, but he's got a compact build. His running style, he's an absolutely electric runner. He's got serious speed, serious running skills. He's just an absolute nightmare for defenders because he can beat you in so many different ways. In college, he was just a big play threat waiting to happen, extremely reliable. Decision making and instincts were almost as perfect as you get at that level. Thrived taking on contact and bouncing to the outside, super slippery, super twitchy. People will know Blake Corum's name by now. He's fallen down a little bit for me simply because I think his role might be slightly different in the NFL to where it would have been a year ago, because he's got that extra tread on the tires, and because of the injury, I think he might be more of a short yardage back when it comes to using it. He's going to be a player who's going to be able to put up loads of touchdowns, but maybe won't be used so much in long yardage. But his speed is deadly when you get him open. Combines agility, speed, elusiveness. Can return kicks as well, which is always a good sign for running backs. He's small, and he's probably going to be a short yardage guy at the NFL, I think. But I love Blake Corum.
Yeah. You've summarised him quite nicely there, Ryan. If you, for what I think of when you think of Blake Corum, it's a bit of a wander, so bear with me on this. If you've seen the Harry Potter movies, for those who have, and he's on the big purple bus, and the two buses heading towards him, and the bus slims itself down and fits into a space, that's what Blake Corum's like. He will find that gaps. He will find that he's got really good understanding of where the space is for him to go into. And I think he's probably got the best vision and instinct out of all the running backs in this draft. Interestingly, you mentioned about short yardage and short yardage touchdowns. Of his last 45 touchdowns, 33 of them went for 5 or less yards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that is going to be where his role is. I think that he, as I say, with that understanding and that space and movement, I think he's maybe less so when he's out in the open field. I think he's much better closer to the line of scrimmage. He's a fantastic player, and I think that he's got good instincts even with pass blocking. He's maybe not the biggest of guy, but he understands where blitzes and things are coming from, with where to put himself in the right spot. I have him as number 3. But I really like Blake Corum, and I think that he'll have a good career in the NFL as well, and if he's used in the right way.
Yeah. I'm really intrigued which one of the 3 you don't have. Ooh.
Interesting. There we go. Blake Corum, the night bus. Owen, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Jonathon Brooks from Texas. I was toying a little bit of where to put him. I think for me, anyway, these were the 3 that I'll talk about. The topic were the clear 3, which is why I'm intrigued by what Stu's doing. But Jonathon Brooks for me is one of those players who does everything to an above average level, but nothing to an elite level, if that makes any sense at all. That he shows enough as an athlete. He's got enough wiggle. He's got enough maneuverability to find and hit gaps. He's got light footwork, good enough as a pass catcher, stop-start ability in open space. And he's got the ability to go through gears and control his acceleration and pace as a runner. Weaknesses, I think he's only got questionable functional strength and balance to hold up as a blocker, which is why I've put the others above him. And for me, he chooses contact over space far too often. But the fact that he only has 238 carries in college means that he's got plenty of tread on the tires going into the next level. And I think he has potential to be the first running back taken.
Yeah, looking at him, he has, in that amount of carries, an average of well over 6 yards per carry, which is a really good amount for him. I think that he's someone who he's maybe a bit less experienced. Some of these other guys obviously sat behind Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson, so he definitely has played less. I think he's someone who's really agile and smooth when he works between cut to cut. I think he has good wiggle, and he kind of know how to create yardage in tight quarters, but also out in space as well. It's a good burst, but I think he sometimes doesn't put the foot onto the accelerator quick enough for me at times until he's really sure of a gap, rather than just going for it. And he isn't the most physical run finisher, but I think he's definitely on an upward trajectory. I think he's a good enough pass catcher as well. He's got enough power to kind of get through contact, but not the strongest in the world, but enough to do so. He's obviously had that ACL injury in November, which will have a factor in how fit is he going to be early on. But I think he's a really good prospect. I have him as number 2. But there's a lot of chatter about him being the first guy off the board, isn't there? But for me, he was number 2.
Yeah, so going back to something you mentioned there about it, that I said that he was able to go through the gears, and it's the speed's more of a build-up speed when you compare it to some other running backs in this class. What you would like in a running back is you almost want that speed to be instant and then go up and shoot through the gaps, whereas it's almost like he needs to build himself up to it at times. And, he can be patient behind the line of scrimmage with active footwork to almost like be on his toes, ready to go. But it can sometimes take a tad longer to get up to speed than some of the others.
Okay, Owen, who's your number 2, please?
My number 2 is Jaylen Wright from Tennessee, who I was actually very, very surprised with. He was my 1 and 2 are very, very close. I was toying around with this as well. I've had him in a couple of different orders. Jaylen Wright is just lightning in a bottle. He's just a pure athlete at the position. His running style and his motion is almost the same as a track sprinter. He runs with power, exceptional vision and the athletic traits to match that, slashes through offensive linemen running between the tackles, and a space finder once he's in and through that lane. Fluid and proactive footwork, and he's got the power and the contact balance to escape tacklers. Explosive first step and cuts to instant speed, low center of gravity as well to get in and out of his breaks and juke and get out of tackles. Decisive when gaps open up and appear as well. Movement skills are absolutely exceptional. He is just an elusive runner. The only real question mark I had over Jaylen Wright is that I felt that he could be a little bit hesitant behind the line, almost too patient at times when you get on tape, you're going go, and he's still it just doesn't quite hit it. He can be a little bit overly patient, but he's a powerful, elusive, explosive runner, and everything that I like in a running back is personified in Jaylen Wright. I really, really like him.
Well, we're going to have the same number 1 then, I think.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have Jaylen Wright. I must admit, running back is not my favourite position to watch, and it isn't my forte. So I'll leave it to your better judgment, Owen, and say that Jaylen Wright is going to be good. For me, he's very quick. He's very speedy through his moves. He's got quite good vision. I think for me, I didn't quite see the power maybe that you saw there. I think that he runs quite high with his pads, and I think he isn't going to be someone, I don't think, is going to grind you out those hard yards. I think he struggled a little bit with yards after contact when he was being properly hit, and running out of the backfield was okay, but again, not my forte, and I'll bow to your better judgment on this one.
I think some of that's fair. He's 5'10", 210 pounds. But the strength, I would say, he can hold up as a blocker, which tells me he's got enough strength in his build and his frame, and he can be a good receiving option too. But yeah, I can see what you mean about. I would say the power. It's a powerful running style rather than being a complete brute. It's generating power through his legs. He doesn't glide. He's absolutely thunderous as a runner. The play strength, I suppose, comes into it. Because he had 4 fumbles in 2022. We only had 1 in 2023. So the play strength could come into that, and maybe that is improving, which is why the fumbles are a bit more limited last year.
Okay, Stu, I'll give you the honour because you've not introduced anybody for a while.
Yeah,
who's our number 1?
I had my fun last week with players. Unless I'm totally wrong, I think we're going to have possibly the same number 1. Brian's nodding in agreement. Brian knows who we've nominated. Trey Benson, running back from FSU. So he is a 6 foot, 216 pound running back. 4.39, 40-yard dash. So he's very quick. He initially started at Oregon, but had a knee injury and then transferred to Florida State. For the last 2 years, he's been playing there, and he's just scraped under the 1,000 yards both seasons, just in that 900 plus. But I think he is he's just got that 2 seasons of collegiate wear and tear, so that's a positive. He hasn't had a huge carry load in all his games either, which again is a positive for me. But I think he's someone who runs with really good knee bend. He's agile. He's got good contact balance. I think he's got creative athleticism to him. He is some talent as a pass catcher as well. He's enough protection ability to be a 3-down running back. I think he lowers his pads and balance as well through contact. He's able to slip and cut away, find small openings. Sometimes the burst is maybe not there all the time, but he certainly has the speed to do that. I think that he's probably got the best all-round game of these running backs in the draft, and for me, that's why he's number one.
Yeah, I totally agree. Trey Benson, it comes down to one thing for me, and that's the missed tackles. He is
it's an insane. I can't remember the exact stat, but it's an insane amount.
Yeah, so he in 2022, 79 missed tackles forced on 154 touches, which is just insane. I don't have the amount of touches in front of me, but it was 51 missed tackles.
156 carries he had last year.
This
season, yeah.
156 he had. So he's the same amount of touches. The missed tackles were down a bit this year. Then there was 20 missed tackles down-ish. But it was such an incredible level that.
Do you think that's nearly 130 missed tackles off of 300 carries?
Yeah, it's absolutely insane, and that shows he's pro ready, and it's that vision and natural feel for space that I really like. He's got the cuts and the footwork to find the smallest of gaps and hit them quickly. Short, shifty strides and nimble footwork. 6 foot, 216 pounds, so thickly built, and great lower body power and strength. Runs hard and he runs angry as well, which probably shows up in that missed tackles forced data. Forces so many tackles. Ability to make people miss is just unrivaled in this class. Just tacklers bounce off him. Insane, great contact balance. It doesn't matter how many defenders you put in the box, he'll find a way of getting open. Big time burst, natural speed. Slippery and elusive as well. Problems with him, he needs more pass catching experience. There's plenty of players in this class of the running backs that have better pass catching resumes than him. It's not that he can't do it, it's just that he wasn't asked to do it very often. And he can play tall, but he is 6 foot, so taller than a lot of these guys. He's not small by any means, so he can play a little bit upright at times. But I think I can forgive him that. He's just, get him in space and he will be a quality back in the NFL. I don't know I don't know if you think the same here, Stu. I don't know if I'm overwhelmed by anyone in particular thinking they're going to be able to hold down a room as the main guy. I would actually like all of them to be a complement to someone. But the NFL is going more that way, isn't it? By running back by committee rather than just the one guy doing everything. So I think if you get any of these guys in a committee, they can be really good.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get any Derrick Henry 8 billion carries a season guys out of this group, and people have been a bit down on this group as there's no first, second round definite 100%ers that people have talked about. There's no Bijan Robinson, Ezekiel Elliott, those kind of level of guys coming through. But I don't think it should be written off as a terrible class. I mean, there's plenty of good players to be had, and we've seen it before that guys picked round 4, 5, 6 in teams doing well. So. Yeah, there is players to like there. It's a bit of what's your flavour and what do you not have in your room already. I think might be where some different orders of these guys are drafted depending on what's already with the team.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to the correct class, but it's almost like there isn't anyone that you want in round 1. I'm not sure, particularly for me, I would want any of them in round 2 either, but I could see a couple of them going. But there's about 12 that you could take early on day 3. I'm trying to think what class was it last year, was it the year before? There was one that was it was good at the top, but then it just completely faded off. Whereas this is the completely opposite. You know, there's loads of names in terms of honourable mentions. You go, Marshawn Lloyd was a guy that I was toying around with, but he is small at USC. He could go early. Bucky Irving, he's only 5'10", 175 pounds. It's far too small for running back, but his vision is absolutely excellent. Audric Estime, Blake Watson, Carson Steele, Cody Schrader later on. There's just loads of guys.
Yeah, there's not going to be a shortage, and I think that as well is why people are not going to pick them early. You know, okay, there's no can't miss guy. Okay, well, so what? We don't pick someone on day 2. It doesn't matter. There's going to be a squad of guys behind him. We don't have to get a guy early.
Well, there we go. My usual question of how do you see this class panning out and name some other names. You've just have a job here, guys. Come on. No, good stuff as always. I guess if you could be so kind as to remind the listeners of your top 5, please, guys.
Yeah, so mine was Braelon Allen was at number 5, Will Shipley at number 4, Blake Corum at number 3. Who did I have at number 2 again? Who did I have at number 2?
Jonathon Brooks.
Jonathon Brooks. God almighty, it was only just 5 seconds ago we did that. And Trey Benson at number 1.
My 5 were Tyrone Tracy from Purdue at 5, Blake Corum from Michigan at 4. Number 3 was Jonathon Brooks from Texas. 2 was Jaylen Wright from Tennessee, and 1 was Trey Benson from Florida State.
And there we go. There we have it. Another top 5s in the bank. And I've ruined the surprise. We've got receivers coming up next, so that's always pretty fun, isn't it? So keep an eye out for that. And of course, check out all our previous episodes. We've done the defensive line, offensive line, the inside and the outsides. So do check that out. And yeah, keep your eyes peeled. We'll be back with you very soon. Until then, take care and thanks for listening.